Hey there, Knicks fans. You hear us talking about fair play, earning fan cash on your bets, even sweepstakes to win more fan cash. But now it's time to talk squad bets with FANATICS Sportsbook. Squad bets is the smartest way to parlay, so one underperforming leg doesn't bust your bet. Build a custom squad bet by combining player stats into one bet. Pick points, rebounds, assists, or threes and set your target. With squad bets, your bet stays alive till the very end, because when one player slips, another could step up. One player cannot bust your parlay. Track it live, cash out whenever you want. It's squad bets only on FANATICS Sportsbook. Parlays hit different here. Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for the first of, wall-to-wall second round coverage here at Knicks Film School of the impending matchup between the New York Knickerbockers and the Philadelphia 76ers. Very excited to be able to kick off a massive day of great content coming at you. Obviously, the NBA not leaving us a lot of time between finding out who the Knicks are playing in this round, and then obviously game one, which is tomorrow night at Jeremy, when's game one? 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock? One of those, right?
It's tomorrow night.
It's tomorrow night. I'm here with Jeremy Cohen. Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
Hello, John. Doing quite well. How are you?
I'm good, man. Little bleary-eyed because I was up late doing. I had to do Honda Sports Night after the end of the Met game, and not only are the Mets on the West Coast, but they managed to go into. I was going to say overtime. Really need sleep. But they went into extra innings before they racked up another loss. Shocking result. But you don't care about the Mets because you're a Yankee fan, and more importantly, you're a Knicks fan. So, how are you doing?
I'll tell you, I feel great, as Knicks fans should. You know, when we did our podcast after game 4, just going into it, right? It was game 4. I felt great. There was something about, I don't know if it was the conversation. I don't know if it was the way the Knicks played. It was probably the way the Knicks played. But something about it, I just felt like, all right, they've got this. Yeah. Energized. And then game 5, great, in the driver's seat. In game 6, there were times where I almost felt bad. I didn't, at any point, to be clear, feel bad, but I almost did. And to see them go up by 61 was incredible. So best game of the season, maybe best game of my lifetime as a fan. I genuinely don't know. I was thinking about this.
Someone asked me I did a Patreon mailbag, and somebody was like, where do you think that game will rank all time for you? And my honest answer was it depends on what happens in the rest of the playoffs. If like the Knicks go to the finals this year, I think that'll go down as like, I don't know, one of the 5 or so most memorable I don't know about most memorable, but like most memorable events, because like it wasn't close, and you tend like close playoff wins are the ones like you really remember. But when you think back to just notable events in your life as a Knicks fan, like that, it's 51-point win, you know, it was insane.
Highest lead going into halftime in any NBA playoff game ever. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. Great job by everyone on the team. And, you know, the week prior or so, I said that the back-to-back 1-point losses were going to haunt me for a while. Turns out a while was really just 5 days, a week, something like that. So we move on, and now it's Philly.
Well, we're going to turn to Philly. We're going to do our top 3 questions as we do before every playoff series. Before we get there, though, how much for you does game 6 and some of what we saw in game 6, and if you want to extend it to game 6, game 5, game 4, whatever, like over the last 3 games or over the last game, how much is that influencing? Because you're always very measured. Mm-hmm. So I really, what I'm asking is like recency bias. Like, how much are you allowing what happened over the last 3 games to influence your thoughts about this team in the series, like moving forward, all that stuff?
I felt pretty good about the Knicks this season, and this has
You
not
did.
exactly helped me feeling really confident in how the Knicks are proceeding right now. So, I try, of course, as you mentioned, to stay measured. But with that said, when the Knicks are playing their best basketball of the year at the perfect time, it's hard not to feel excited about that. It's hard not to feel like, all right, you get through this team, then you have 8 more wins. That's it. You got to take it one at a time, of course. But for me, it's very much of, they're moving along. This is the right path at the right time. So the Hawks game 6 was really just an exclamation point with that in mind, but it's good to feel good, and we can do that. And I hope that carries over into the next series, because based on how they figured out Atlanta and how they remembered, hey, we're the New York Knicks, we're pretty good, that carried over too. So
it is good to feel good. I feel like that's got to be a quote from Boogie Nights or something. Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen
that.
I know. Yeah.
It's a good film. I mean, shout out to our friends at FANATICS Sportsbook. I just checked it. The Knicks are essentially 2-1 favorites in the series. They're minus 240 to win. Sixers are plus 195 to win. I do think what happened over the last few days impacts how those lines, because I could see a world. I mean, obviously this is not the world we exist in, so it's like we shouldn't waste too much time talking about it. But like, let's say they dropped one of the last 3 and they had to go to game 7, and game 7 was maybe close for 3 quarters and they just eked it out. Like, and then you leave the Philly series exactly as it was and nothing changes about it. Everything's the same. I could have seen this being more of a coin flip, at least in terms of like the betting odds. Because I think, like, there's a lot of people out there, maybe one of whom is on this podcast, that was waiting for this team to prove it to them, when it really mattered. And it's funny, like, yeah, there sure is a world where you could still, if you want to, dwell on the fact that they let 2 games slip away, one or maybe both of which were a little inexplicable. Well, actually, no, they were very explainable. The explanations were what was not great. But I'm choosing not to do that. And I think I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty positive, 3 questions episode. So unless there's anything else, like, do you want to, age before beauty, you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Sure. The one thing I'll say as well is I'm really glad that the Knicks were tested by Atlanta, because Atlanta is a good team. And I know that the Knicks put them away.
They are.
And as we write the final chapter on Atlanta, they were a very talented team. And I want that to be noted, because the Knicks had to dig deep to beat that team. And obviously CJ McCollum went off. But with that in mind, it's being able to look at yourself in the mirror, figure out what's wrong, and fix it. That's what being tested can do. It's like pressure makes pipes, or bursts pipes, or makes diamonds. The Knicks, the pipes are bursting, and now the diamonds are flowing. So that was good. It's good that they were challenged, and now they get to take that recipe and apply it towards a different team, but with that identity in mind.
I'm thinking of the Seinfeld episode. It's all pipes. Remember?
Yep.
They all go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. We got a PTA reference and a Seinfeld reference. I'm just batting 1,000 here. All right. What's your number? We're starting at number 3. What's your number 3 question for the series?
I'm going to go low hanging fruit here. I'm going to say, how will the Sixers deal with fatigue? I mean, you could put it number 1, honestly.
So my number 3 question, I want to say it because it's, I think, a cousin, if not a brother or sister to your question. My question number 3 was about the pace, and how would the Knicks push the pace, and if they did, is that something that is going to help going to tire the Sixers out over the course of the series? So I think we are of the same mind here.
Yep. So just some fun facts. The Sixers, with game 1 being played in New York, the Sixers will be playing 5 times in 5 different cities in 8 nights. Games played since April 1st. The Sixers will have 15 games, which feature 11 different trips, while the Knicks will have had 12 games played and 7 different trips. The Knicks, of course, had 6 days off before the playoffs, while the Sixers were in the play-in and had to prepare for that. And the Knicks also had 4 days off in between rounds. I also was curious about teams in the last 10 years that went the distance, played all 7 games in the first round of the playoffs, and advanced to the conference finals. So the record overall of those teams in the last 10 years to go from winning in a 7-game series and then winning the next series is 5-9. So 14 teams, 9 of them lost, but 5 of them won. And I want to walk through the 5 that won because I think that's relevant. The last team to do that was in 2021. Do you remember which team that was? To win, that is.
7 games in the first round, 2021. So that's the We Here season.
Mm-hmm.
And then win the next round. So basically advance to the conference finals, right? I don't think it was the Bucks. I don't think it was the Hawks. I don't think it was the Suns. Who the fuck did the Suns play in the conference finals? Is that the answer? Oh, no. I think Jeremy's frozen. Oh, wait. No. Okay. Well, I'm just going to filibuster until Jeremy comes back. I don't remember who that was. But I'll just get my point out of the way since I'm talking to myself for the moment. On the fatigue issue. Oh, Jeremy's dealing with a Wi-Fi issue. He'll be back in a sec. Live podcasting. So the reason why the pace thing is interesting to me is during the regular season, obviously, as will surprise nobody who has been watching this team not only this year but for years and years and years, slow pace. For all Mike Brown talked about, he wanted to increase the pace this season. That was not something that really sustained past the first week or a couple weeks, if you want to extend it to a month. Knicks finished the regular season 25th in pace. Now, I will say, and Fred Katz always points this out, and maybe it'll come up when I go on with Fred at noon, that the pace statistic is not always an indicator of how fast teams play or how much pressure they put on you with their speed. For proof of that, just look at the team that is one spot below the Knicks in pace during the regular season, the Charlotte Hornets. When you think of the Charlotte Hornets, you do not necessarily think of a team that plays it slow, but they're so low in pace because they move the ball around a lot, they drive, kick, and they use up a lot of the clock. I do think it's fair to say, though, that is not necessarily the Knicks. And for as much as they were selective in pushing it and pushing the envelope and speed generally in selective moments during the regular season, like, this is also a team that has a tendency at times to take 5, 6, 7 seconds to get the ball across half court, especially when Jalen Brunson is the one leading the charge. So, yeah, they were 25th in pace on the regular season. In the regular season, Philadelphia, okay, Jeremy will be back on in about a minute. Philadelphia was middle of the pack. In the playoffs so far, so obviously Sixers, Boston, Knicks, Hawks, the Knicks 9th, obviously tied with the Hawks in 9th, in pace, at a pace that would have ranked actually just a little bit below the regular season number, which is notable because usually pace goes way down in the NBA playoffs. For proof of that, just look at the fact that the teams that led the first round in pace, Denver and Minnesota, their pace was under 100. Meanwhile, in the regular season, there were 18 teams who had a pace of more than 100. So pace always slows down, which is what makes this even more interesting to me, because in the Philadelphia 76ers series, first round series against Boston, they had among the lowest paces in the league. They were the second lowest pace, ahead of only the Rockets and the Lakers, which is like, that speaks volumes that the Sixers and the Celtics had a lower pace in their series than the Magic and the Pistons currently have, which is borderline astounding if you've watched any of the Magic Pistons series. That is how slow Philly and Boston were playing. And I think a big reason for that is the fact that Boston is just not a team that was ever going to adjust its speed. They finished with the dead last pace in the regular season, as Jeremy is back. Man, putting the filibuster limits to a test here.
I was just going to do my best Boston Celtics impression, I guess.
That is that was good.
I'll change the ticker, by the way. Change the ticker.
Oh, yeah. Good job by you. I was just saying that the Celtics had the slowest pace of play in the league during the regular season, so it's not surprising to me necessarily that they did not try to push the pace in their first round, because that is just so antithetical to who they are. Meanwhile, the Knicks, for as much as they were a slower pace team in the regular season, we did see them push it a little bit against the Atlanta Hawks. And I think they're capable of doing it again. The last thing that I wanted to just kind of, because you may have missed it, the pace for Boston Sixers, Philly was like very, very slow in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I did not look at yet, and I'm going to look at right now, is in terms of the first round, like the on-offs. So Joel Embiid is the one guy, interestingly enough, when he was on the court, the pace did quicken, which leads me to believe that when Joel Embiid was out there, Boston at least tried to make a cursory effort to play faster. The pace when Embiid was on the court was 97.21. When Joel Embiid was off the court in the first round, that pace went down to 92.9. So I think the Sixers tried to employ the same strategy as I hope the Knicks are going to employ in trying to basically not run Embiid off the court, but like
Celtics.
Sorry, the Celtics. What did I say? The Celtics. And trying to like tire Embiid out and run him off the court. And like, look, for as great as Embiid was last night, and he was really good in the fourth quarter, I think he was he 2 for 8 or something like that? It was not a good performance for Embiid in the fourth quarter. And you just talked about all the travel. This was only Embiid's. He only played 4 games in the series, right? It was 3 or 4. Or no, sorry, it was 4. Yeah, it was 4. So now you're talking about he doesn't get that time to rest and recover beforehand. He's got to, ramp it up right away for Monday. We don't know how healthy he's going to be. So I think you just got to try to run. Back to your question.
Yes.
2021. Was it the team that lost to the Suns in the Western Finals?
It may have been.
Who was it?
It was the LA Clippers. Who, of course, had Paul George.
Okay.
Interestingly enough. But so with that in mind, before that, it was the bubble year. That was the Denver Nuggets. There was no travel involved with that 3-1 lead. Then 2 years before that, there were 2 teams. The Cavaliers, who had LeBron James, and the Boston Celtics, who were a great team and played against the Milwaukee Bucks. And then in 2016, it was the Toronto Raptors. And who did the Raptors play? They played the Heat, who also went the distance in their series as well. So one of those teams had to do it, and one of those teams lost. So of those 5, no team has done it since 2021, but doesn't mean that it can't happen. And the circumstances behind those don't quite fit here. So if you're thinking just in terms of the series, that's a good sign for the Knicks. In terms of how many games it takes, that's a different story. But if we're talking about walking away and going to the next round, you're encouraged by the fact that the Sixers really were run down. And to the point about pace that you were saying, I don't know if the Knicks are going to be a different identity of pace. I think they'll try to quicken things. But the Sixers themselves, to your point, they're not a fast team. They ranked 19th this past season in offensive pace. The Knicks, however, were 27th. So they might move more in transition for the opportunities.
I have it 25th, but I'm on NBA. You're probably looking at.
I was looking at basketball index.
Basketball index. Okay.
Yeah. But with that in mind, it's, and this might come up more, how are the Knicks getting the opportunity to go faster? Because the Sixers do a great job of protecting the ball. So it's being able to get in transition or quicken the pace after made buckets. That's something the Knicks may not do a ton, but that's part of why maybe you have someone like Jose Alvarado. That's why you try to change things up a little bit more and make the adjustments you do.
Last thing on this, and again, like the Celtics are their own thing and they have their own issues. Interestingly enough, despite the fact that they move the ball tried to move the ball faster when Embiid was on the court. That did not help their offense. When Embiid was on the court, the Sixers, according to this is, again NBA.com, gave up 106.1 points per 100 possessions. That's a really good number. When Embiid was off the court, that number went up to 117.3. So the Celtics were actually having much greater success on the offensive end when Embiid sat. Now, I don't know if that says more about like the Celtics got out of their habits by, trying to speed it up when Embiid was in the game, and maybe the shot quality wasn't as good. I don't know. I would have to really go deep dive on that series to know that answer. The last thing I'll say on the 2021 Clippers, that was the semifinals that essentially ended the Utah Jazz, where they crumbled. Kawhi Leonard went down in the middle of that series for the Clippers, and the Jazz still lost in 6 games. That was just like an all-time, this thing has probably reached the end of its rope, and it showed it. So that's a great stat. Okay, I guess I'll go. So that was we both said our number 3. I'll go with I'll say my number 2.
Mhm.
Which side of the ball do I want to go on? And how do I want to phrase it? I'll go. I'm going to go. And I'm going to preface this by saying I'm going to have my Knicks offense related question as number 2, because for me, I'm not worried about the Knicks scoring in this series. I think the Knicks are going to be able to put up points in the series. And the bigger concern for me, and if we are sitting here in 2 weeks talking about a very disappointing result, I think the reason will be because we were the Knicks could not stop the Sixers when it mattered, as opposed to the Knicks could not score on the Sixers. So I'll go with my number 2, which is, what does KAT's usage look like in this series? And how, if you want to extend it, how similar is it to the round that we just saw? So obviously the Hawks, it's weird because on one hand, you could say, obviously, they did not have an answer for Karl-Anthony Towns. I've said quite a few times, and I would probably have to amend it now to put him behind Maxey, but KAT was the best player in the Eastern Conference in the first round. Again, put him 1, 2, 3. I know some people say OG Anunoby was the Knicks' best player in the first round. I think it was KAT, because I think what KAT had to do as far as his responsibilities directing the offense, to say nothing of what he did on defense, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
I think what KAT had to do was just, he was the symphony conductor. He directed everything. What was interesting about it, though, is in terms of the stuff that the talking heads always talk about in terms of what they want to see more of from KAT, we didn't really have to see that much of that, which is give him the ball and let him go to work on someone that he overmatches. We saw it selectively at some key stretches. There was a very key stretch of Game 5 that we saw it. There were some stretches earlier in this series where we saw it. But he didn't do that much, I think mostly because he didn't need to do that much, because he was having a more outsized impact as a passer, as a threat, as a screener, as a threat, as a spacer, a popper, all that kind of stuff. And I'm wondering if that will be the same in this series, or if the Sixers will basically force KAT to try to beat them as a scorer. And then that obviously has everything to do with the other part of this question, which is whose hands should the ball be in the most? Should this be more of a Jalen Brunson series? Should this be more of a Karl-Anthony Towns series? So all of that, to me, is the most interesting question for when the Knicks have the ball in the series.
So with that in mind, first off, KAT is going to be incredibly difficult for the Sixers to guard. One of my potential questions was, who's guarding KAT? Because you put Embiid in space.
Yes.
That could be barbecue chicken. You get Paul George off of potentially OG Anunoby, and you get him on Embiid. You get him on KAT. That creates other mismatches. I could see Embiid and Hart together in some capacity, whatever it is. But KAT has that mismatch opportunity that not a lot of other players, of course, will have. Jalen Brunson was phenomenal in the last series against the Sixers. Truly brilliant. And this might seem silly, but for a team that is mostly, at least starting lineup, mostly comprised of Villanova guys, they love playing in Philly. They relish the opportunity to go in there. And this is a team that really does find opportunities to gel away, even though their record away versus home may not indicate that. But they've kind of found that ability to really do that and really come together. And I think the Atlanta series is a good experience. And when you go to courts that are overwhelmingly home affiliated because of how many Knicks fans infiltrate those arenas, it's kind of the best of both worlds. With that in mind, I mean, from the usage perspective, it's also pick and roll. I'm so curious with Cat and Brunson as well, because the Knicks were 6th this season in pick and roll ball handler shot making, and they were 9th in pick and roll screener shot making. So no matter who is running pick and roll, whether it's Brunson, whether it's Cat, whether it's Alvarado, whether maybe you get some screening with Hart in there, or even Mikal Bridges, if you went that direction. I don't know if they really will. Well, they probably won't. But in terms of the opportunities that can be created there, that's the mismatch and where the Knicks can go. So in terms of your point with the usage rate, it's that it almost feels as though the Knicks can go in so many different directions with how they operate, because if they're using Cat as a central hub, they can keep doing the off-ball cuts and everything that they had in the series before that. But now, having Embiid on one leg, and I didn't get to mention this because my computer did a great job of conking out, but the lack of depth that Philly has, I'd presume that they play their deeper bench guys in the beginning of the series because
I mean, game one, because they're probably going to be exhausted.
Yes. It's not first to 4 in 4. It's first to 4 in 7. So they just came back from a 3-1 series deficit. So if you're Philly, you're just playing to escape the round, and you're going to probably space it out there. But that's inferior opponents on the court who are well rested, but maybe not particularly good. So when it shifts back to Cat, it's if he's going to have those advantages, he should take them 100%. And if you're going to have the offense flow through him and then give Brunson the opportunity to cook on his own, that's going to be really tough for someone like Maxey or a rookie like Edgecombe or even Quentin Grimes, who we know he's a good defender, but can he guard Jalen Brunson in the playoffs? That's a different story.
So a couple of things just on because it has been said already, oh, this should be a pick and roll heavy series. The one thing about the Hawks matchup that even with their personnel was inexplicable, and again, people have pointed this out, was they never just went to guarding Hart with the 5 with the Kongwu and treating him like a non-shooter and playing liberally off of him and having a Kongwu just camp out in the paint. Now, I'm guessing part of the reason for that was they did not feel they felt that when Okongwu was on the floor that he needed to guard, whether it was OG Anunoby or obviously Karl-Anthony Towns, which is where he spent most of the series, other than when the ill-fated brief adjustment to putting Dyson Daniels on. Maybe it did really come down to a personnel question, and that was that was all it was. I don't see a reason why Philly would not guard Hart with Embiid, have Embiid just sag off, play in the paint for pretty much the entire possession, and then put, whether it's Kelly Oubre Jr. on Cat or whether it's Paul George on Cat, that's the matchup, which then, of course, you will switch anytime Brunson and Cat get in a pick and roll. And then assuming whichever of Oubre or Paul George is not guarding Cat, that the other one is guarding Jalen Brunson, then you're switching and you're like, okay, fine, we will live with that. And especially since Embiid is hanging back, so whatever comes of it, in theory, you have that last line of defense. That to me seems almost too obvious for Philly to do, which then gets to the other side. It's like, okay, well, if Embiid's guarding Hart and Paul George is guarding one of Cat or Brunson and Oubre is guarding the other one of Cat or Brunson, then presumably you're going to hide Maxey on Mikal Bridges. That's a whole nother conversation. If that is the matchup, can the Knicks exploit that? Well, then you're asking VJ Edgecombe to guard a guy who just had a playoff series in which he averaged 20 points, 8 rebounds, and had an effective field goal percentage that, I tweeted about it the other day. Like, name your all-time NBA great big man from the last 35 years. Nobody has ever had a more effective shooting series than OG Anunoby just had. And obviously that's
crazy,
in part because he just didn't miss a three. But like, asking Edgecombe to pick that up. And here's the other part of it, and this gets right into the depth thing that you just brought up. The depth is not only an issue for Philly in terms of like they're going to run out of like, bodies, but like it's not like they have an obvious pivot. It's not like, okay, let's bring in Quentin Grimes and he's going to solve these matchup issues, or let's bring in Dominic Barlow or Trendon Watt, and they're like, they don't have that pivot. Whereas the Knicks, if you want to talk about the Knicks, go back to the Knicks on offense. It's like, all right, if they do find like a semi-answer ignoring Hart, and let's say Hart has some shooting issues, well, okay, let's bring in Deuce McBride. And then he all of a sudden spaces the floor in a different way, which is just like, it's not that the Knicks don't have questions that they have to answer. It's not as if the Sixers don't have answers to some of the Knicks questions. It's just when you start going through question, answer, I think you run out of stuff for the Sixers well before you run out of stuff for the Knicks. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm very curious to see it.
Well, the other thing too with the Sixers do have bodies that they can throw out there that can defend. Like, someone like Grimes, someone like Barlow. I mean, to a degree, it feels kind of crazy to say, but Drummond. But even putting that aside,
I don't know that.
I agree. I'm with. It's. I don't trust Drummond to do it. I'm just saying that if what I'm saying is that I don't trust Drummond to be a good defender. But what I'm saying is if Embiid is incapable of playing, it's a body that has length and size. That doesn't correlate necessarily.
If Embiid's not on the floor, or if Embiid gets hurt, like, I hate to sound like Bill Simmons, but like they did kind of find something with like Bona, because like Bona's a little bit more of a live body. Yeah,
can't hit a layup. Can't.
No, okay.
Sure. But this is
a lot of things.
But that's the thing where it's the Sixers can throw guys out there to try to make the Knicks work harder on offense, but the bench scoring just really isn't there. Yeah. So every move, when it feels like with the bench, it's countering a Knicks move as opposed to how's it advancing your offense. Like Jordan Clarkson, I feel better about him scoring for the Knicks off the bench than I do about pretty much any player on the Sixers, maybe Quentin Grimes. It's based on how he plays and how he's more aggressive. But that's the thing. They've had to find ways to counter Boston. And now they're countering the Knicks. So when you have a team that's rested, when you have a team that's able to score in bunches, and they're more balanced across the board, I feel a lot better about that team's opportunities than I do about the team that's coming off of this multi-city trip that has largely not been the best team. They've also been an incomplete team, but that's the nature of getting in the business of Joel Embiid with the contract extension that I don't think has even kicked in yet. So
it hasn't.
That's just where they are. They're a weird hodgepodge team that's got a player at the end of his prime, possibly out of it, a player that's entering his prime, young talent and old talent. They're just like, there's no overlap that's so significant that they can prosper. And that comes in play in terms of how they defend and how they play on offense.
But to your point about the Sixers not having like any question that they answer with something from their bench opens up other questions. Two things. Number one, the Knicks I think it was the most underrated story of the first round for all the attention that was paid to the Knicks offense. I think the Knicks, how smart they were defensively. Anytime the Hawks put someone on the floor or gave them an opportunity to shade a certain way or play liberally off of someone, like they executed. It wasn't just that the opportunity was there and they tried to take the opportunity. I thought they executed on those opportunities really well, which is why you saw the Knicks end up with the defensive rating like they did. By the way, that defensive rating was trending that way even before Game 6 when the Hawks fell completely on their face. So like the Knicks have gotten really smart and sound and good with that kind of stuff, which bodes well. To your point about the Sixers kind of being this 2 timeline team, that wouldn't matter as much to me if they had like literally one more guy off their bench that like I felt comfortable being like a two-way player. Like, but again, there's a lot of teams that wish they had one more guy coming off the bench. But I think for the Sixers, it really stands out even more. And not to get, this isn't a Sixers, offseason podcast, but like they didn't add at the deadline. They actually subtracted at the deadline, getting rid of Jared McCain. I don't know how big of a role he would have played in the series, but neither here nor there.
I don't think he played a huge role, but he would have been a healthy body. He's not helpful. He's not really cracking the rotation, the playoff rotation in OKC. But
well, I mean,
that's what happens when you've got the riches that they do. They can afford that.
Okay. Number one question. Why don't you go?
I think it's my second one, is it not? Because you went first for the.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're number two.
My number two is effectively, how can the Knicks take advantage of the rebounding battle?
Okay.
I mean, the Sixers are a pretty abysmal team on the glass. They've ranked bottom 5 in defensive rebounding percentage each of the last 3 years. This year, they were 27th. In terms of the offensive side, they struggle there too, especially with Embiid on the floor. But the Sixers are also an inefficient team. They were 25th this past season in effective field goal percentage. And John, they've ranked bottom 6 in effective field goal percentage each of the last 3 years. So the shots they're putting up, not necessarily great looks, and they're not getting the rebounds. So it's kind of hard for them. And if the Knicks can, of course, utilize Mitchell Robinson to not just create the stops, but collect the stops, that's something that can really benefit them. Again, the Sixers are a great turnover team. They do not lose the ball. And they were 6th in protecting the rock. So with that in mind, if you're not creating those turnovers, and if the turnovers you do create, perhaps they are not live ball turnovers, if they go out of bounds, it's harder to capitalize on that. But from the rebounds perspective, if you are able to collect the boards, you limit any opportunities for the Sixers to push into pace, which is quite important there. Even though they're not the fastest team, transition is something they can do pretty well. And with that in mind, it's just collect the boards, box out, capitalize on second chance points. I think the Knicks, if they do that, they'll be able to take care of Philly pretty well.
Regular season, Philadelphia ranked 8th in defensive turnover percentage, obviously, which is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Their number in the first round against Boston was very low in terms of how many turnovers they forced, but that's I think more to do with how much Boston emphasizes taking care of the ball. Like that's the one thing the Celtics don't do. That'll be interesting. The turnover thing will be interesting. I would expect the teams to draw roughly even. Like I don't see the turnover thing as like a huge battleground in this particular series. The rebounding thing, I'm really happy you brought up. The Knicks finished the first round as the best rebounding team in the league. Now that has, again, a lot to do with their matchup, but they were also an exceptional rebounding team during the regular season. Interestingly enough, Philly, after the series with Boston, ranked as the 3rd lowest rebounding rate in the playoffs, but they were okay on the defensive glass. Where they really struggled was they did not get any offensive rebounds. They only rebounded a quarter of their misses, which is like half as much as when Mitchell Robinson's on the floor for the Knicks. Not that much, but it's close. They just don't have a great offensive rebounding team. They again, to your point about the chess matches of that will take place in the series. They have guys that could come in and clean up on the offensive glass, like Barlow. We saw Dominic Barlow influence that, but like Dominic Barlow's not playing right now. Why? Because when you put him on the floor, it's like it really cramps the offensive spacing. So maybe and this will lead into my number one. For as much as there are going to be possessions and stretches of games where we will watch this series and feel like, my God, the Sixers are eating us alive, I do think it'll be huge if the Knicks can just hold them to one shot. And that has been a big part of their success throughout this entire run under Tibbs. It has remained so under Mike Brown. And they are, I think, well equipped to do so. My number one's not going to...
Just one thing to add.
Yeah.
The Celtics did do well, the Sixers did well in the defensive glass against the Celtics, primarily because Cato was frequently in foul trouble.
That's true.
Vucevic was unplayable. especially in Game 7. Which, hey, congrats on Executive of the Year for trading Simons for Vucevic.
Got under the tax. Big save the owner some money.
Good job following orders. And Tatum, of course, missing time and not being the guy, and that's not his key role. He's not going to be hunting for boards on the glass. You're not going to trust Luka Garza to do that. So I hear you in terms of the Sixers and how they were a bit more proficient defensively, but they were playing a team that while Boston in the regular season did do a good job on the offensive glass, based on how they're built playoff wise, they're not really the team that I would expect to gobble up those boards. So the Sixers were working with the personnel that they were playing against. And I think that probably was a big reason the Celtics lost. If they had a center that they could trust, I don't think we're talking about the Sixers. I think we're talking about the Celtics in round 2.
I mean, we haven't had an explicit like Boston or Philly conversation. Let me ask you, who did you prefer?
I wanted Boston, truthfully.
You did?
I did. Not because I'm concerned about or was concerned about either team, to be clear. And hey, maybe I eat those words, but the way that I was operating was just based on the matchups and the depth issues and the way that things weren't gelling with the Celtics. I understand that Jason Tatum coming back was great for them, but Jaylen Brown, as we saw very clearly, has, despite his NBA Finals MVP trophy in his case at home, he struggles quite a bit. Derek White's shot looked broken. Sam Hauser was not giving you good minutes. No. This was a team that was relying on younger guys that got them through the regular season. And this is where the regular season and the playoffs are so different.
Baylor Shireman didn't scare you?
Big Shot Bob did not scare me in that moment. Hugo Gonzalez did really well, better than I would have anticipated for a rookie. And I thought he had a nice regular season. It didn't carry over in terms of opportunities in the playoffs. Jordan Walsh did a great job. But it's not like I wasn't fearful of the Celtics. I thought the shine really started to wear off. And the thing that's bugged me the most, just while I'm on my soapbox, is this whole season, I feel like I have seen, especially in the playoffs, people talking about this Knicks team is built to beat the Celtics. No, this Knicks team is built to be a contender, and they're equipped to beating the Celtics. But they don't have to beat the Celtics because the Celtics are in Cancun right now, and the Knicks are still playing. And it felt like a put down in some ways about this Knicks team that they are being built to topple a Goliath, when really the Knicks are building a team that can exist all on its own and can do its best against the entire NBA. But because of any narratives, because of any focal point of Boston as the protagonist in the NBA media landscape, which can be infuriating, but can be great on days like today when they've lost. It bothered me to see that. You know, you had your thing with the Pistons. This is my thing with the Celtics. I'll always despise the Celtics. I respect the Celtics, but I hate Boston sports.
Something fierce.
But with that in mind, it's the fact that the Celtics were viewed as the top dog all along when they kept having to prove themselves. And the Knicks are still standing, and the Magic are still standing at this very moment when the main Celtics and the Raptors, two teams that like, if you had said, hey, imagine the Magic and the Raptors being ahead, and also Jason Tatum came back. And what did Jason Tatum come back for? They got bounced in the first round. So you brought him back and you still didn't do anything. So I just wanted to take a moment for that, because the Knicks deserve their respect in their own right and not having to be compared as the team that's chasing the team that's already been eliminated. They're not.
Two things. Your theater references often go over my head. I was, when you just said taking some of the shine off, was that a reference to the town and shine?
You know, it's really funny you say that, because I guess I'm so involved in theater that I didn't even make that a reference. And I played Wally Webb in Our Town as well. So I didn't.
No,
I didn't
The Town.
Oh, The Town. I thought you meant Our Town. Now I'm too theater focused. The Town. Yes, great. I love The Town. That's a really good movie. Joe Mazzulla is right.
The fact that I said The Town and your mind went to Our Town.
Look, I haven't had coffee. This is decaffeinated tea.
Frightening, dude.
Look, that's a New Hampshire-based play. What can I tell you?
I read. We read it. We didn't perform it. We read Our Town. I'm pretty sure it was 8th grade. Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell you one character name, one thing that happened. Like, it was nothing.
Dog.
Zero.
George and Emily. No. Great romance story. The narrator. That's an incredible part. One of the best. I'm going to go too far away off script. So let's go back to basketball.
Where do I even pick up now?
You said the town, not our town, to be clear.
Yeah, I did. Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted Philly. I am the notorious here at Knicks Film School guy who like gives Boston way too much credit.
Boston?
Just
fill in team here.
Yeah, but Boston was like my boogeyman all year long. And even over and above, I'll just say right now, even if Detroit wins the series and like they make it to the final, Eastern Conference Finals, and if the Knicks make it that far also, and it's Knicks Pistons, I'll pick the Knicks and I won't think twice about it.
They've shown their true colors.
Yeah,
just in the series. Yeah.
Again, as we've talked about, part of the reason I was so mad after those Pistons game was because I just don't think the Knicks are that much. Like I don't think they're worse. Period. But whatever. I digress. The thing with Boston, with Tatum in there, as much as everything you said is accurate and very fair, they were dominating this series. Up 3-1, and like you could argue that they pissed away game 2. Not saying that there was a world where they like would have swept, but like, you know, there's a reason why people were did they give Boston too much credit? Absolutely. But like they were comfortably ahead, and it took something of a collapse by Boston for Philly to be where they are. And I would rather play the team in the second round that was the beneficiary of the collapse than the team that, like, let's say the Pritchard 3 last night went down, and we're sitting here and we're talking about a Boston series. In that would then the team that, you know, almost collapsed. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree in the sense of, you don't want to say it's their championship. It's not their championship. They won a round. They're going to be happy about that. But this was also the first 3-1 overcoming a 3-1 deficit for the first time for the Sixers. Mm-hmm. Joel Embiid's first Game 7 win. Next is, of course, hey, how does Joel Embiid get to the Eastern Conference Finals? So there's going to be motivation and also just staying alive. That's obvious.
And narrative.
Sure.
There's a narrative here where it's like, of course, and this would probably be my biggest fear because you know I overthink about this shit. Mm-hmm. Like, how fitting would it be after all the years where it seemed like, okay, they have the team to make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, like the path is laid out for them, that this is the fucking team I don't think that's what's going to happen, but
I hear you, because the Knicks have been bounced by lower seeded teams the last 3 years, so it's not like we should be looking at Philly as an underdog that we can just ignore. That's not the case. But to your point, in terms of the team that's riding a high, that was a grueling series. Joel Embiid came back, changed the dynamic of everything for them. And now they got to turn around after playing a really tough 7-game series and a really hard Game 7. I was rooting for overtime, just for whatever it's worth. But I was rooting for 5 overtimes. But,
I was not. I was rooting for Philly the whole way.
Sure. I mean, you could root for a Philly win and still have overtime. But
true, yeah.
With that in mind, having to collect yourself, and even if you're going from Boston to New York, and maybe they're going from Boston to Philly to New York, but I doubt it. Now you have to game plan entirely. So Game 1, that could be a whole different thing. Do you punt it if you're Philly? In some, I mean, I'm not saying don't play Embiid, right? But do you maybe work in the bench more, like we talked about? But even still, having to go from this exhilarating feeling to, okay, hey, that's in the past. Now we got to get to another series, 7-game series, if it goes that long, against the Knicks.
My fear for Game 1 is the Knicks come out. Not that they come out flat. They're not going to come out flat. But like the Sixers, just like it's like almost like they emptied the tank in the first quarter and they try to come out like guns blazing and they take an early lead, and then, or alternatively, they just try to hang around for 3 quarters and then try to gum it up with some matchup adjustment and then try to steal it in the fourth. All this is leading up to my number one question, which is basically who do the Knicks prioritize stopping in when they are on defense? I could go with the simpler version of the question, which is who guards Maxey. That's going to be the number one question for a lot of people. Is it yours?
My number one is involving Tyrese Maxey.
Okay.
Effectively, how do you game plan around Tyrese Maxey?
Yeah, and I'll just say the one thing that I did have time to do before we went on is I went back and rewatched all of Tyrese Maxey's field goal attempts against the Knicks in this regular season. And he was guarded by almost everyone. The almost is doing a lot of heavy lifting, which I'll get back to in a bit. A lot of Mikal Bridges, a lot of Deuce, even though Deuce didn't play in the first game. It was a lot of Deuce after game 1. Game 4, funny enough, the guy who took the lion's share of possessions was Landry Shamet, who, as Landry Shamet is wont to do, definitely made Tyrese Maxey work. And Tyrese Maxey still scored a goodly amount, even though the Sixers got blown out in that game. There was some Kolek, there was some Jalen Brunson, and then there was the guy that, if I had my vote, again, I think you could argue that there are reasons why this player should not start on Maxey, like out of the gate, game 1, but he would absolutely get my vote for the guy who should guard Maxey the most, and that's Josh Hart. I thought Hart did a really nice job it was like less than 10 possessions where I had him guarding Maxey, at least on a shot attempt. I think Hart's physicality, and you don't think of him as the sort of guy that should be able to stay with a shifty guard, but he's really smart. He's putting forth Josh Hart playoff effort, which, as we know, is very different than Josh Hart regular season effort. And when you combine those smarts and the just enough quickness with his strength and physicality, I think he'll do a better job on Maxey than any of the other options. Back to almost everybody who guard him. I think I literally saw one possession where OG Anunoby was on Maxey for on a shot attempt. Now, we know from the last time these teams played, OG on Maxey is not like some kind of a cheat code. I did just find it interesting that that is not something that Mike Brown really ever went to in the regular season this year. And it's like, there are worse pivots you can make if you need to just throw something different. And then the other one, and I think there was like one possession. I don't know if he ended up on him on a switch or if it was just the primary coverage. And this is also because he wasn't on the team for most of it, was Jose Alvarado. Mm-hmm. And I think selectively using Jose Alvarado in that matchup could be also something that could be very good. Point is, put Tyler Kolek aside. I just named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different players that I could conceivably see getting a shot. They have a lot of different ways that they could go, and I think the way that, to me, the way this series changes on the defensive end for the Knicks, which is like, if this is a series, that's how it's going to become a series, is do the Knicks utilize all these different options and schemes and coverages as a strength where it's like, oh my God, now Tyrese Maxey has to deal with this. Oh, now Tyrese Maxey has to deal with that. Or is it going to feel like the other way around, where the Knicks are throwing stuff at Maxey and Maxey's slowly but surely figuring out each one. And then by the time we get to whether it's game 4, game 5, game 6, it's like, oh, they've tried everything and they just don't have an answer. And I think that, I'm not saying that's going to be the difference in the series, because I think the Knicks could win the series even if they never really truly figure out the Maxey thing. And that has to do with like, how much are they prioritizing stopping Maxey with like conceding some stuff and just making sure nobody else beats it. Like, all of this is wrapped in together. But like, to me, this is the series, how the Knicks defend him and what choices they make in that effort.
I'll be really impressed if the Knicks stop Tyrese Maxey, because he is, would you say he's second team All-NBA this year?
I think it's tough because Luka was eligible and Cade was eligible.
And Brown.
I think it'll be close. I think he might be. Borderline second, third team, whatever.
I mean, it's impressive. Yeah, it's just Tyrese Maxey this year. So in transition, Basketball Index has him as for transition shooting talent, he's first in the NBA. Transition shot making, first. Transition shot creation, second. But then there's the half court. And the Sixers weren't a great half court team this year. I think they were 23rd. But in more limited opportunities in the playoffs, they're third. So the half court offense has shown up a little bit more, although they've been playing against, I think a lot of set defenses, though. So that's good if you're the Knicks. But half court shooting talent, he's 18th. Half court shot making, 20th, and half court shot creation, 22nd. He can beat you in a number of different ways. I don't see ways that you tire out Tyrese Maxey. Yes, maybe you get his legs a little bit tired, so his pull-up game is a little bit worse. Also, keep in mind that from the regular season, the four most efficient pull-up shooters are all on the Knicks. And then after that, it's Paul George and Maxey with the same percentage. So, in terms of how they create offense, Philly is great at getting to the rim. And who better to do that than Tyrese Maxey? For example, Philly was 4th at rim rate this year, and the Knicks were 15th. Rim shot making, Philly was 8th. New York was 25th. Finishing talent, Philly was 4th. Knicks were 25th. And rim shot creation, Philly was 2nd. Knicks were 20th. So how the Knicks can try to avoid Maxey getting into the paint is a lot easier said than done, especially because of how downhill he goes.
That's so funny because I don't think you could let him pull up comfortably.
No, that's what makes him such a lethal threat.
I think you have to take away. Yeah, I think you have to take away the pull up, and I think you have to trust your shell, as it were, to make sure he is taking runners and mid rangers and the sorts of shots that like look. Say what you want about Boston and how Maxey kind of figured them out. He was at 114.7 points per 100 shot attempts in this series versus Boston, 114.7. Jalen Brunson, who like we all would agree up until Game 6 had like a really tough go of things. Hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. It's not as high as Maxey, to be very clear, but it's 114.5. So essentially dead even. So if you watch the series from Jalen Brunson and you're like, yeah, he had obviously first quarter of Game 1, fourth quarter, which was his big fourth quarter, Game 5. And then obviously, Game 6, he was very good. He didn't have to shoot a lot, but like same efficiency as Maxey. So before you go thinking like Tyrese Maxey is this guy that like cannot be stopped, against Boston, he was essentially Jalen Brunson versus the Hawks. And I'll take that. Like if the Knicks could hold him to that again, I'll take it. Because I think Brunson's going to be better in this series than he was against Atlanta. Anyway.
Yeah. And in terms of the level of shot quality, the Sixers this year were 27th in overall shot quality. So to your point of making him as uncomfortable as possible, forcing him into bad shots with someone like Alvarado, with Deuce. I don't know if Shamet is going to see a ton of time, just another rotation. But I agree that Josh Hart would be something to square him up on. In that case, are you thinking that Brunson is on Oubre, or are you putting him on Edgecombe?
I think they have to to me, just as big a question of who guards Maxey is how early / how much do they lean into OG on Embiid? Because to me, the best Knicks defense is you hide Cat on Oubre and allow Cat to roam because he was really, really good, like helping in off-ball situations against Atlanta. I think he could be that again. You have OG on Embiid. You have Brunson on VJ. Obviously, VJ could do some things against Brunson, but I'm willing to live with that. And then you have Hart on Maxey. And then I personally think the guy that Mikal Bridges could be most effective against is Paul George.
He's slower, which would be more
he's
finesse,
slower,
which gets you closer to the Jaylen Brown, Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, I mean he's bigger.
Sure,
he's bigger. He could grab. He's still even at this age could grab rebounds. But like to me, that's the closest thing to like you go guard Paul George, and we will figure out whatever Paul George gets on Mikal Bridges. Like, that's what I would want to live with myself. But I will see which way Mike Brown wants to go.
Agreed.
Your last question. We'll get out of here.
It was that. It was
okay.
Tyrese Maxey.
Perfect. There you go. We'll get out of here in under an hour. Do you want to make a prediction?
I will. There's one other stat that I want to throw out there that I feel like is relevant.
And then we'll get to super chats too.
Sure. The Knicks were 29th in the most corner threes allowed during the regular season and 20th, which includes the playoffs so far. The Sixers ranked 26th in corner threes taken and 21st in corner threes made in the regular season. But the Knicks, of course, I want to say, I'm trying to figure this out. Yes. So Philly, in terms of covering the corner threes defensively, they were 24th in the regular season and 18th in accuracy. The Knicks, first in attempts, 6th in accuracy. So I think the corner shot is going to be very big. Philly doesn't take a lot of corner threes. They don't make a ton either. It's been the bread and butter in a lot of ways for what the Knicks have done.
Yeah.
And I just think if you get the right opportunities and the right movement, especially if we're talking about pace, sure, that's one thing, but getting Philly to run around quite a bit and then creating those corner three shots. The Knicks didn't take a lot of shots from three in general against the Hawks, but that's their spot. We know that they can hit them. So that's that. In terms of the series itself, as things stand right now, I've got Knicks in 6. If you told me it were 5 because of the health and the tiredness and fatigue of Philly, I'd say sure. But I also remember being at MSG for Game 5 and Tyrese Maxey made it interesting and pushed it to 6. I think they have enough talent and willpower to get it to at least 6 games. So I'll go with Knicks in 6.
I'm toggling between Knicks in 6 or Knicks in 7, and the Knicks in 7 is purely out of an immense amount of respect for Tyrese Maxey and the fact that he, unfortunately, what?
No, it's just funny because we just went from the Celtics portion, like I respect the Celtics so much, and then it's like, well, what if we push this to 7? And maybe you're not wrong here. To be clear, you did get bullied out of going Knicks in 6 in the Hawks series. You went Knicks in 5, and they did go Knicks in 6. So
and it went Knicks in 6. And Philly's a better team, and Maxey's God knows better than anyone that the Atlanta Hawks had. He's just, his shot making is nuts, but to bring it back to where you just took it with the corner 3 stuff, the shots that Philly makes against you, they hurt because they're like, man, they're making these shots, these hard shots, these like, coming off a freaking screen and like stop on a dime and pull up for 3, like in Maxey's case, or Joel Embiid. It's like, man, the coverage was great, and it's like you weren't even there. Yes, that stuff hurts, but it also runs out. Like you're not there. It's just not going to happen for 48 minutes, game after game after game. So like the fact that the Sixers don't really get a lot of low hanging fruit, and that they do need to make a lot of tough shots to win these games and score enough in these games. I think eventually that will come around and bite them in the butt. Super chats. We got 8. Starting with one from Hajzu. I won't lie, if the Sixers still had McCain, I'd be worried. But the starters are averaging 40 minutes. I think our physicality will tire them out. I hope. They have to, like, how many times do we hear someone on either team talk about physicality in the last series? If the Knicks could like really out physical, and it's tough to out physical a team where their guard is like so fast. But if they could out physical the Sixers, which they should absolutely try to do, which is again another reason why I would like to see Josh Hart on Tyrese Maxey. I think it'll be a boon. Mm-hmm. We got this one from Miguel Bustos. What's going on, Miguel? Can't stop grinning since last night. Can't stop. I guess Miguel's maybe not a Boston fan either.
I guess not. That's okay.
I have a feeling this one's going to be for you.
Yeah.
Kevin Yanishevsky. Jeremy, my update is in quotes for anybody listening on the pod, is that if Mikal plays poorly, they should start Deuce for point of attack help. Deuce, great in the 24 series. Also, Killian Hayes, crazy town. That's referencing.
Don't worry about it. It's just Kevin being a heel for really no reason. Because Kevin whined and moaned about the fact that the Knicks didn't change their starting lineup. And then a couple days afterwards, I hit him with update because they didn't need to. And he thought I was crazy for the fact that keeping it and making adjustments in game. Also, shout out to Mike Brown and his coaching staff because they were a couple games away from being fired and potentially worse than that by the fans. And they did a great job.
Worse than that, tarred and feathered?
I mean, used your imagination, I guess, but yeah, it's not just gainful employment. The fans in this season where things are going, you can see the path. So again, like now is not the time for major experimentation. I think minimal experimentation. Absolutely. I'm in favor of adjustments, but there's certain things where it's not that it doesn't work. It's just that guys, in terms of how their process is and how coaching impacts the team, like to your point, if Mikal Bridges is guarding Paul George, and this is a series for him that doesn't rely quite as much on speed. And even defensively, he's holding up and he's able to hit more shots and be a better version of what we saw. That's a good player. You take that. So again, I understand the point of attack portion, but I just I just don't think that they're going to do that. And I don't think it behooves them to do it because they've clearly made and found the right workings within the game. And it's not to say it can't work, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be copy paste where you start the game that way and then change everything.
Number one, they're not going to change the starting lineup, nor should they at this point. Like, you just got what you got from Mikal Bridges in game 6. Lean into that, you know, and like continue to improve his confidence. Number two, Kevin, having just watched a lot of Deuce McBride possessions on Tyrese Maxey, I could tell you he ain't some cheat code. Like, tries hard. Like, we know what Deuce is. Like, no. Like, Tyrese Maxey ain't looking at Deuce McBride like, oh, man, this is going to be really tough. I promise you, he's not. Not saying he looks at anybody like that, but so, yeah. What do we got next? Armand. How much do you believe between Kevin 0, Armand 10?
Oh, I think it's in terms of it, like a scale of 0 to 10. Kevin is the doesn't believe, maybe, and Armand is the I
don't know. How much do what's my like confidence level for the series? I don't know, 7, 8, something like that.
8, 9.
Yeah, that's about right. Sergio Acosta, what's going on, Sergio? Knicks in 5, Section 217A on Sunday. See you soon, Joel.
Knicks in 5.
Monday,
right.
I think you mean, but yeah,
he could be there Sunday. I don't know.
Isn't today Sunday?
Yeah, but you could just be waiting.
Oh, next
Sunday. No, next Sunday would be in Philly.
Yeah. Okay. GC Malerbo, what's going on? Regarding the starting 5, the 76ers have more talent on both ends. Edgecombe can be trouble. Bench is key. Agree. I don't agree that the 76ers have more talent on both ends. I think the talent is probably is at worst equal. I mean, Paul George was awesome in that series.
Mm-hmm.
OG Anunoby was one of the best 10 players in the league in the first round. And honestly, that's probably like I'm lowballing it. You know, so like Josh Hart, I know he brings issues when he's not shooting it confidently, and we'll see how the Knicks confront those issues when they have the ball. But like, I'm sorry, I'll take him over VJ Edgecombe and Kelly Oubre Jr. any day of the week and twice on Sunday. And then it's Mikal Bridges, like as usual, low man on the totem pole. And that's something I was just thinking. They could even go, because we know how good Mikal Bridges is in help and how smart he is and how much of an asset he could be there. You could have him be on Kelly Oubre Jr. and essentially him being the free safety, him being the roller. And how about give Cat, this might sound crazy, give Cat the Paul George assignment. What was it, 2 years ago? He guarded Kevin Durant and like not shut him down, but like made life really hard for him in the first round when the Timberwolves played the Suns. That was Kevin Durant, you know? So
Jokic, another example. He did a really nice job defending Jokic.
I'm not sure with how good Embiid is at drawing fouls, I'm not sure how. That's why I said it'd be interesting to me how quickly they go to OG on Embiid. But like try Cat on Paul George. Like, why not? Like, they have a lot of different options. They have a lot of different ways to go.
In terms of the starting 5 lineup as well, the Knicks have 4 3-man units in the playoffs that have better net ratings than George, Embiid, and Maxey. And that's their best trio. So I also don't agree that it's quite tilting in Philly's favor.
Dave Murray, bravo, Jeremy.
I'm just going to assume this is my theater background. I don't know what it is.
I just think you're loved.
I appreciate it.
Hakeem the Dream, OG is the best player on the squad. Then Towns.
Ooh. At least last round. Sure.
Yeah. The team is at its best with Brunson being a facilitator through 3 quarters, then a 4th quarter closer. I think the team is at its best when you get Jalen Brunson on, like, if they as a team can knock down the first domino and get Jalen Brunson downhill, get him the ball where he doesn't have to work to get that first step, then Jalen Brunson's one of the 5 best offensive players in basketball. The reason why he looked like he looked for the first 3 games really was because he was trying to do all the work on his own and he was not taking advantage of the talent around him.
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to convince me that Jalen Brunson isn't their best player. I still think he is. But the fact that we could have this conversation and that I could read this statement and be like, that's insane. No, it's not. It's like they have three really good guys right now. So
it's all about delegating. Jalen Brunson was failing to set the table and wanted to cook. If you have Cat setting the table and Brunson cooking, that's a great recipe. And both get credit for it because at the end of the day, if the Knicks win, that's what matters. I agree.
That's all that matters. And it's going to take everybody. Hushu, I think this will be a Macau bounce back series. OG, I think, will start regressing to the mean. Do you see Paul George hot shooting so far holding up? So, again, just looking at the playoff stats, I know Paul George is shooting it very well. Hold on, pulling it up right now.
You think Paul George benefited from the 25-game absence?
He did. I mean, he's at 122.1 points per 100 shot attempts on a usage rate that is just under 20. 122.1 is very good.
Mm-hmm.
To be very clear, it's very good. OG Anunoby has a points per 100 shot attempts of 150. Now, that's the best in the league. Is OG going to regress off of like maybe the best first round shooting series or best shooting series any Knick has had in the history of the franchise? Yes, he will regress.
Probably.
But even if he regresses, like he's still going to be really good, and he still should be able to take advantage of matchups when the Knicks have the ball. And if he isn't able to take advantage, that means the Sixers have had to commit one of their stronger defenders to OG Anunoby, which might be a bigger win than anything OG Anunoby does individually. So, like, again, I'm very curious what Nick Nurse winds up doing here because I don't think that there's a ton of great answers for him. Two more. Ben Kim Gervey, what song video will MB post after beating the Sixers? MB, Mikal Bridges, Mike Brown. Does he mean Mitchell Robinson?
Might have been Mitch.
Maybe you mean Mitch.
What he posted after with Dyson Daniels?
I don't know, but I can't wait to see it. Probably some country song. And then I think this will be the last one. Hakeem the Dream with one more. Brunson will be extremely exposed in this series. How?
It depends on the switches, I guess, with Maxey. Like if you're Maxey and Edgecombe and you're basically just trying to create off of drives.
I mean, he has more offensive talent around him against the Sixers defense that is worse than the last time they played in the playoffs. And he averaged 35.5 points a game, which is the second greatest scoring playoff series in franchise history behind Bernard King against the fucking Pistons. Defensively, yeah, if the Knicks just like allow switches and leave Brunson repeatedly on an island, one-on-one guarding Tyrese Maxey with no help, then he'll get exposed. And the entire fucking coaching staff should get fired on the spot because that would be insane. They're not going to do that. They're going to force Tyrese Maxey to be a passer, which, by the way, much like Jalen Brunson, maybe a little bit worse, Tyrese Maxey is a good passer. He is not a great passer. Once he commits to the drive, he is usually pot committed after a certain point. So they will have answers. I know Hakeem the Dream is just like one super chatter. It is very strange to me that the first round had produced as much Brunson skepticism as it did. It's almost as if people it's almost as if fan is short for fanatic. Shout out to Andrew Claudio. I would caution everybody to anybody who is engaging in those sorts of things to slow their roll. Anything else before we get out of here? We stayed for a while here. Shout out to freaking 1,200 people watching at 11:19 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
I just hope Mitchell Robinson is protected at all costs because Joel Embiid never faced punishment for his crime, and that's just very frustrating. So may karma come back in positive ways where no one's hurt and the Knicks just win.
They, in a weird way, even though the Knicks won that series, they do still. And Mitch owes Embiid one because Mitch missed that entire series or season last year, essentially, other than 14 games. So, look, I'm sure motivation isn't going to be lacking for either team.
As if it weren't lacking to begin with, since it's the added layers that are there.
There's a question in the chat about whether Embiid's going to be out tomorrow. I mean, I expect him. He's going to play. I know they hyperextended it, but it is what it is. Okay, let's get out of here. Jeremy, thank you for waking up early. If you're watching this and you're like, you know what, I need even a little bit more, you have to wait about 40 minutes because I'm going live with the great Fred Katz at noon, scheduled to go live at noon. I'll double check with Fred, make sure, Fred, he goes on these late night benders and you never know with him. But we are going to be doing our annual, it's not an annual Dean Wade draft because it's just like this isn't an annual three biggest questions pod because we do it multiple times every playoffs.
I love it. An annual weekly recap.
Annual series is really what it is, I guess. So we're doing the Dean Wade draft. It's supposed to be at noon, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, everybody enjoy the rest of your Sunday morning. And yeah.
Also, one more thing. Stay tuned. We're trying to figure out watch party scenarios. So once we figure that out, we will know. And I hope everyone who has to deal with Mother's Day for Game 4, I wish you luck. Grateful to have a mom who wants to watch the game.
There you go. It's a ditto. And then, I'll be back with you, I guess, next Monday, right? It's probably,
Well, we will talk.
We will talk.
Yes.
All right. Talk to you later. Peace out.